was 8 years old when I wrote my first, and for some 30 years my last story. I only remember a plot about a princess rescued from the clutches of a monster by a handsome prince. I had never felt so proud. This was my story, each word crafted in my best handwriting. I showed my story to my primary school teacher, Mademoiselle Camus, who called up my mother for a face-to-face conversation.
I think there's something wrong with Alice, and I recommend that she see a psychologist.
And now, mind you, this was a public school in Belgium in the 50s, long before the idea of a child seeing a psychologist became the rite of passage for a normal childhood. My mother took offense, grabbed my hand, stormed out of Mademoiselle Camus' office. As soon as we got home, my mother said to my father,
"Can you imagine that, teacher? She thinks Alice is crazy."
The look in my father's eyes convinced me that writing was just another word for craziness. Only crazy people would be dispatched by their teacher to see a psychologist. I went back to playing with dolls. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. That experience cured me for years of any literary ambition.
I've always enjoyed mentoring people who want to write. Kids in schools, talented people who have trouble getting started, young writers who are starting out. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if patients at Memorial Sloan Kettering, which is an institution I so admire, had the opportunity to fulfill their writing goals and think about their writing dreams and take charge of their story at a time when their life has been disrupted by serious illness. So a writing program made perfect sense to me. Visible Ink in particular pairs patients one-on-one with a writing professional who helps them work on any project of their choice and gives them the support and encouragement they need to be successful.
What the Visible Ink program did for me is it allowed me to take my random thoughts and actually clarify them into published works. So not only was I able to do that, I discovered that I had a talent that I didn't know I had. And it made me a published author, and I was very, very proud of that.
Bit by bit, putting it together, piece by piece, only way to make a work of art. Every moment makes a contribution, every little detail plays a part. Having just the vision's no solution, everything depends on execution. Putting it together, that's what counts.
30 years later, on a Saturday afternoon, my 2-year-old son was spending a weekend with his father. I strolled by myself in the village. I stepped into a small Chinese store on West 8th Street to take refuge from the November rain. I noticed a box filled with the most marvelous notebooks. They had real binding with embroidered silk covers of all colors. I rummaged through the pile as if it were a treasure chest and opted for one with a bright red silk cover and tiny black dragons. When I walked out of the store, the sun had pierced through the rain and broken the November chill. I crossed the Washington Square Park, walked down McDougal Street, and stepped into Café Reggio. I took a seat at a round marble table, ordered a double espresso. I opened my red silk notebook and started to write. That's what writers do. They sit on cafe terraces, gulp cup after cup of strong espresso, and write. Words flew out of my hand into the paper. It was as if I had tapped into the genie of Aladdin's lamp.
We all have dreams. Patients that I'm working with have a dream of producing a piece of writing. My dream is being a writer, producing my own writing. So being able to help a patient achieve their goal, their dream of writing, taps into what I feel about myself outside of work, what I'm trying to do, and what I'm achieving also.
And the writing gives you an avenue, a way in the world to crystallize your experiences and also to be heard and to be read. So it's not just an isolated experience.
I took on the habit of sitting in cafes, preferably at outside terraces, and I wrote. I wanted to write like Hemingway, whose description of Paris in the 30s was better than the real thing. I wanted to be able to describe the women sitting at the table next to me with her straight hair cut just below the neck as if she came out of a Braque painting. But the words never seemed to appear. Instead, I wrote about the jumble of my daily life. I was the princess, waiting for her prince, the heroine with her moods, her problems. And I took up the pen every day for 15 years. Then I got married again. The loneliness broke and I stopped writing.
I'm a writer and a breast cancer survivor, so I thought that volunteering for Visible Ink would be the perfect fit. Now, I've worked with several patients since then, and as much as I sought to give something to them, they've given me a lot back too. I've seen their strength, their dignity, and the honesty with which they tell their stories. I'm always amazed at the lack of self-pity and the kind of hope that I see in their stories, hope in themselves and in what they can accomplish in life. And it's the kind of faith that conveys itself to me, as I struggle also with my writing. Many of my clients, I never convey my story to them because the focus is on them, which is where it should be. But they don't realize that when I read their work and when I see what they go through to bring that work forward, I take something from it also.
So the question is always, how do we select the pieces for the reading? And the answer is we change it up every year. This year, while we were reading through the submissions, we noticed that there were certain themes that were emerging where patients wrote about certain topics from different perspectives, which was really interesting to us. Topics such as the beach, meditation, hair. So we used those pieces along with cancer and non-cancer related pieces, humorous pieces, poignant pieces, and material that also allowed us to incorporate music and dance into them. And that's pretty much how we put it all together.
Ounce by ounce, putting it together. Small amounts adding up to make a work of art. First of all, you need a good foundation, otherwise it's risky from the start. Takes a little cocktail conversation, but without the proper preparation, having just the vision's no solution, and everything depends on execution. The art of making art is putting it together bit by bit.
A few years later, cancer hit me hard, and I spent many hours in the waiting room of the breast cancer center. No way out. One day, I saw a sign about Visible Ink, and the yearning for writing came back. I needed an outlet for the anxiety I was living with. I plunged in, and the joy of my childhood writing experience came back.
That is the state of the art.